There we go. Okay. So basically the key, being a good manager is making those decisions. And it doesn't mean that it's making perfect decisions, by the way. It's making decisions, period, with imperfect information, imperfect resources, imperfect everything. So that is probably, if you take home anything from this next half of the semester, is making the best decisions the best way you can in the best possible circumstances. It's not about making perfect decisions. And if you are always making perfect decisions, then I don't know how you're doing that, because that's amazing. So that's something that I really want you to internalize, because I think we suffer from this perfectionism in healthcare delivery, because we constantly have, the quality metrics, no mistakes, things like that. And that's true, but that doesn't mean that everything is perfect, because it's not, it can't be. So that's something I really want to drive home. So we're going to start with, and we're going to probably speed through the first section, but it's really what kind of defines a manager. And then as we go through the second section, I'm going to pretty much contradict everything and tell you that none of that really matters. So I'm going to give you the formal definition of a manager, and then I'm going to give you the applied definition for the applied elements of a manager, which is what I've clearly been doing for you guys with the anatomy of the organization, the formal structure, and then the informal structure. So do recognize that the two they intersect, so that they work together. They're not contradictory, but they definitely have to work together. Oh dear. So let's get started on that. And so the slides that you're looking at are going to be the ones from week 7, by the way. There's nothing for week 8, so I know it feels weird, but I wanted to keep in line with the class, with the semester weeks, just for our own benefit. So I could keep track of the weeks that I had and didn't have. So hopefully that doesn't throw you guys off too badly. And I share the screen. Okay. So everybody should be able to see a big screen with 1, 2, and 3, right? Okay.
No.
I don't see it yet. Oh, there it is.
Right. How's that? Thank you. Oh, no. All right, so we did do the case study last week, thankfully. So we were able to get through a lot of understanding of making decisions, and the case analysis method is probably your go-to, because it really helps you to organize your thinking. So it may seem very simple, but keep in mind everything that we did in terms of identifying a problem, identifying alternatives, and organizing our thoughts. You're going to use this over and over again. It is a tool to help us make good decisions. It doesn't mean it makes us perfect decisions, because all of you realize that there were several problems and several decisions tied to that. So today we're going to talk a little bit more about just what it takes to get to that point. I'm not going to spend time on these definitions, because you guys can all read those, and I think we've already covered those before. The reason this is important, though, is because I want you to realize the limitations and the importance of understanding why we think about every element of the organization, and why it's important to think about you're not responsible for managing everything. You can think outside the box. Innovation is critical, creativity is critical, but you also have to keep in mind, I can only do so much. Because otherwise, if you are trying to solve every problem, if you're trying to make every decision for every element of the organization, and even across the organization, an organization can also only spread itself so thin, right? It has to have its boundaries. Otherwise, it's no longer an organization. This is why these definitions, I think, are very important, because you can only do the best for what you have control over, AKA your span of control. And so that's why these definitions, they're not necessarily important because you're not ever really going to use these in a sentence. That's why, I mean, the definition, the term is not important. It's knowledge of these is what is important. So we've discussed operational leadership. We've talked about the importance of, we've discussed strategic leadership, and we've talked about the C-suite. We've talked about strategy, the people that make the big decisions, and where managers live, where a manager lives is at the operational level, right? So the operational level is what's called the nuts and bolts, or the other term, and I'm going to try to use less colloquialisms, but it's really where things happen, where all of those strategies of great goals, of great goals, tasks, strategies, all of these things that we've talked about aligning and that are so important, this is where it actually happens. So the key is to align these. And most of the time, the way that you as a manager are responsible for aligning these things is through measurement, right? And so we've talked about kind of how we do this and how we measure. And so most of the time, the way that we align the measurements that you carry out at the management level, the operational management level, with the strategic level, are through structure, process, and outcome measures, okay? So those are three key kinds of measures that the organization engages in. What you may have heard of is Avedis Donabedian. I think I mentioned him. Is there a raised hand? Oh, weird. Okay.
Yes, Dr. S, I just had a question before we move forward with
Yes.
operational leaders. So just wanted to be clear on this. This operational leaders definition is, let's say, for example, we have a board, and then we have a CEO, and then going down, we have executives. So let's say in a hospital, there's a director of surgery or a director of gynecology. So those positions would be considered operational, or they would be still in the strategic realm?
It really depends. So remember our class motto, if you've seen one, you've seen one.
Okay.
It depends on whether or not their task is to carry out the strategies, the goals, the objectives set out by the strategic plan. From the sound of what you're saying in terms of director, that sounds like they report up to somebody, meaning that there has to be some kind of, there's a scoreboard or dashboard that's saying, you as director of, I think you said gynecology, you're responsible for women's outcomes, and women's outcomes is going to be merged with thoracic outcomes and surgical outcomes. I'm just making this up. And we're going to look at overall quality outcomes in terms of adverse events, safety, length of stay, things like that.
Okay.
So think of it more as in concepts, because that's why, one of the first things I said is anywhere you land, you want to get that, that org chart, because that's where you can begin to see that kind of gray area of operational leadership and strategic leadership. And it is definitely does get a little fuzzy.
Yeah.
That director position will certainly have a lot of input into when they're making those strategic decisions. So does that make sense?
Yes, but at the same time, they would be also operational in certain ways, but they can also have input. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Yeah, the distinction is, if you hear it, is I'm saying they have input into strategic leadership decisions, but they're not necessarily making strategic leadership decisions.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes. So that's just the CEO or the president or the board that's doing that.
Yes.
Okay. I understand now. Okay.
There you go. Yeah. And like I said, though, if you've seen one, you've seen one. So make sure that because that's why you need to know what your organization looks like.
Mm-hmm.
Why it's so important to get an idea of the formal structure of the organization. But yes, essentially, whoever is carrying out, and the idea, honestly, in a strategic planning, remember, is that technically everybody should have input into the strategic plan. So this director should actually be representing the input from everybody under them.
Yes, I see.
Like I said, ideally.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Great question. Great question.
Thanks.
Okay, so measurement. So it's very, we could just say, you've heard me say over and over again, alignment, 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 dashboard, I say all these terms and it's like, okay, but operationalize that for me, Dr. S. What does that mean? And so one of the most classic and really the cornerstone of how we measure hospital quality is, like I said, Donna Bedian's measures of quality. And I think I've probably said this to you several times, but a lot of reimbursement incentives and policies are structured around Donna Bedian's measures. That's why I insist on them, so that you can become very familiar with them, because usually when you are reporting up to those dashboards, when you are looking at those strategies, they tend, like I said, if you've seen one, you've seen one, but they tend to follow these types of measures because they follow a lot of the national reporting outcomes, like the HEDIS measures, HCAHPS, CMS, pretty much everything for CMS. These are all hospital reporting outcomes, right? Which is what hospitals try to align themselves to make sure that they are providing the perceived and desired care that patients need, and so that they can maintain, the legitimacy that's desired. So we've talked about structure, process, outcomes. Structure is the characteristics of the services provided and the settings in which the care occurs. Process are the services, service lines, the different types of services that are offered, and then what happens as a result of the structures and processes that are provided to patients, right? And at the national level, and what we'll do in the fall, actually, in the methods class, is we'll look at a lot of these metrics. Here's a couple of links for you guys to look at. We won't go visit them right now just because of time, but the measures are very much tied to hospital income and revenue. And so those performance metrics are very important to hospitals. Now, there is some argument in terms of whether or not those metrics are necessarily perfectly aligned to patient outcomes, i.e., do they necessarily result in better patient outcomes? But overall, the overwhelming opinion is that to a major extent, yes. And the reason that this matters is because patients look at these hospitals. They look at these tools. Okay, we're going to go to visit one, just one, and then we have to go back. But because you guys really need to see that they look at these tools to really select a hospital, right? So let's say we look at somebody give me a zip code that's not San Diego. Anybody?
90277.
Thank you so much. Okay. So I thought it'd be fun since we all know the hospital's here. So what it does is it starts to give you the different medical centers nearby. So I say, I need to go to the hospital. I have a little time, it's not an emergency. And I start to look, and so I can look and you can see the overall rating.
We're still your screen for the PowerPoint.
Oh, drat, sorry, wrong screen. How's that? So I can see that I can start to see the different hospitals in the area, right? Can everybody see this okay?
Yes.
Make it a little smaller. And now I can start to see the overall rating and the patient survey rating. And you're like, well, wait, these are just stars. So this is things like overall rating in terms of heart attacks and pneumonia, readmission rates, and safety. So this is not a Yelp review. This is clinical outcomes. So Yelp drives me crazy. So that's a whole other class. That's a whole other day. The patient survey rating is from HCAHPS. So HCAHPS is a nationwide survey that is ongoing for every single hospital. It's a fantastic survey. And some of your colleagues have actually written their final projects based off HCAHPS. So that's something to think about. But it's really about their assessment and their experiences with hospital care. And it's a really great assessment of patient, what used to be called patient satisfaction. And so it's a great, I'll urge you to look up what's the difference between patient satisfaction and patient experience. So then we look at and we say, okay, well, let's look at these hospitals. Then it's like, well, let me compare. This one looks amazing. Wow. Okay. But you know what? This one doesn't see, okay, this is a huge, oh, I'm not gonna tell you yet. So we're gonna compare these two, right? And so you can click on this and you can begin to see exactly what the differences are. So you start looking at the type of hospital, the emergency services, and it gives you an idea of the different ratings. So you can see the same as the national average, below or above, patient safety, readmission rates, patient experience, effectiveness of care, timeliness, so on and so forth. And so you can begin to see why patients can visit this and look at it. As a researcher, you can actually get the data for this. You can actually get the physical numbers. And so hospitals will go visit this and pull this information so that they can begin to compare themselves to the hospitals around them. So that's just your little teeny tiny intro to that. But this is just one of the many, many, many resources that you can find. There's another one called data.gov, and that has a great deal of data, which you'll become very familiar with in my class in the fall. And all of these measures are critical for what we call evidence-based management, okay? And so the whole idea is that this is kind of the continuum of how strategy leads down into basically each patient being a number, being a measure, being everything that they need to get those metrics that they want. And this you can read, it's just a definition of what I just said. But essentially the whole premise of evidence-based management is to measure what matters, right? So we're measuring performance at the structure, process, and outcome level. And more importantly, it's what are the opportunities for improvement that we're missing because we're not measuring the right, because we're not aligning our processes, because we're not aligning our services, our outcomes, our processes, and our structures with our strategic imperatives. So evidence-based management is really the operationalization of a strategic plan. And that's the whole premise behind that. So I won't spend much more time on evidence-based management. We'll get into managers. But I like this one too, because you can kind of see where the manager fits. And the way the manager, and this is a strategic planning kind of schedule, it's not ideal, but what I want you guys to see here is the red circle is sort of where the managers can provide input, the operational level, let's not even say managers. The operational level is providing input. So it always happens prior to the actual planning and decision-making. At least that's the idea, okay? And so that's the kind of alignment with evidence-based management and managers. And I try not to read slides. So the key basically is that managers are the driver between what's happening and how it's measured and how the strategies get put in place. So we're going to talk about management from the perspective of functions, skills, roles, and competencies. And I know they all sound very much alike, but the whole purpose of this is I need you guys to understand skills and competencies for your own descriptions when you're writing your CVs, when you're writing your descriptions for your internships, because I want you guys to align with what you envision a manager to look like. So the whole premise behind this is I could give you just the definitions of what a manager does, and they're very basic, but I want you guys to align that with what you're doing, because your strategic plan is to get an internship, to be successful, to manage project so-and-so, project HMP students at SDSU, right? And the objective or vision or mission is ideally get a job or whatever career output that you have, right? And so when I'm doing these slides about management, I want you to envision that in terms of what is your goal? What is your premise, okay? Okay, so, sorry, too much talking, more doing. So the 4 key elements of management. First of all, it is a process, right? It is a process of interrelated or interdependent functions and activities. It occurs in an organizational setting. Now, the reason that we care about the organizational setting part is because it's bounded, meaning you don't manage everything. So if you recall what I said earlier about the importance of recognizing bounded rationality, boundaries spanning, and span of control, those definitions, is because it occurs in a formal organizational setting. Remember what I said about the org chart and the boundaries? So that's where the job description is critical. Knowing what your tasks are, knowing what you're responsible for. That doesn't mean you don't deviate. That doesn't mean you can't volunteer or be helpful. That's not at all what it means, but it means being very clear about your mission and how it aligns to the organization's mission, right? And that's number 3 really, is involves accomplishing organizational objectives, AKA aligning to the strategy. And it involves achieving those objectives through people and the use of other resources. And I should really say through people and aligning other resources as well. So use and alignment of other resources. Here's the kicker. Individually, managers are appointed to positions of authority, okay? So the reason I say appointed is because it is not, you're formally appointed, but there's no other reason why you're a manager. You're just called a manager, right? Because technically every person in an organization is really just an employee. Does that make sense to everybody? So this is going to kind of be a weird thought that I'm about to give you, but if you think about it, the only reason that we can consider a hierarchy, or we actually listen to other people that make demands of us or tell us to do something, is due to what's the word? I can't think of the right word. An invented hierarchy. We believe in it, right? Because technically there's no other reason why you listen to a manager. Other than we believe in the goals of the organization, we've decided to be a member of the organization, and we have decided to adhere to the norms and rules of the organization, right? And that's why the org chart is a thing, because what true difference is the CEO from the manager or the director of obstetrics? There really isn't one. I mean, granted, there's training and things like that, but at the end of the day, they're the same. They're just appointed differently. And so it's a bit of an agreement. So that's a really important thing for you to remember when you're a manager, because at the end of the day, we're all sort of just acting. And so this is really important as you become a manager, because you want to lead, but you're also remembering that you're a member of a group, of an organization where you're all technically the same, which is the goal of making the organization succeed. Does that kind of make sense? I know it's a bit abstract, but I just find it fascinating with management that really at the end of the day, we're all just kind of standing around and like, oh, okay, well, I've decided to be this and you've decided to be this. So let's see. Yes, yes. And so, and it's, I mean, it honestly, it tickles me, but I just love telling students that, because it's just, I mean, honestly, but the beauty of being a manager is that you have the extra power, and it's granted to you, right? To enable others, to inspire others to do work, to do a certain work. You don't get, so this is why the word management, I feel like, has a negative connotation, but you're not there to like crack a whip. You're there to inspire. You've been given an opportunity. You're also responsible for resource use, right? So responsible resource use, and you're accountable for work results, good and bad, mind you. So this is probably one of my favorite slides, just because I think it's really important to think about when we're thinking about managers, is that this is, of all the stuff I'm going to tell you guys, which is all I'm basically giving you is a bunch of great words for your resumes and stuff. This is really the heart and the core of a manager. It's this. is that, you know, you are just part of a resource of humans. And when we talk about HR, that's the other cool part. Okay, so now we do have ways to identify different managers, right? The primary difference is span of control. So it's what I said, the CEO and the director, it's the level of training, the level of years, the scope of responsibility, complexity of tasks, things like that. So really the way we differentiate is span of control, is how much they're responsible, how much your neck is stuck out, right? But at the end of the day, there's still the same thing, you know, we all put our pants on one leg at a time. So that's something to think about. So these are the key functions, and you'll see these functions everywhere. So you'll see that, you know, you can almost memorize them: planning, organizing, staffing, directing, controlling. These are the key functions. And the key 6 function, which I always talk about, is decision making. It's the which cuts across all of these, which we'll get into, but we're not there yet. So just focus on these. These are the inherent functions that of every manager that you always will think about. I'm planning, I'm organizing, I'm staffing, I'm thinking about how we're going to do this, how we're going to organize resources, who's going to do it, who's going to do what, directing, right? And then what resources are going to use, controlling, to do what I just want them to do, right? And you remember I said function, skills, competencies, all that. I know they all sound like the same word, but a function is actually, and I thought it was important for you guys to know, since you're all going to be new professionals, it's really a combination of knowledge and skills. And knowledge, if you guys don't know the difference between knowledge and skill, because you know I love definitions. It's like my favorite thing is definitions. Because you can do anything as long as definitions are clear. And the more clear you are with definitions with the people you work with and the people that work for you, the more, the greater the communication. Because most of the time, most arguments and conflicts occur due to bad definitions. Not even miscommunications, bad definitions. So essentially, knowledge is information, right? It can be acquired in different ways. And skill is just practicing of that information acquisition. So the more that you're familiar with the information that you acquire. So practicing the knowledge, right? That's knowledge and skills. And the reason I tell you that is because you will often be asked about this. And so here's a little cheat sheet on knowledge and skills. So knowledge can be explicit or tacit. I don't care if you know that or not, but I want you to understand that knowledge can be acquired from a book, from these slides, but it can also be acquired in, say, an internship where you are observing somebody doing the information that you wish to acquire. Skill is actually also practicing next to that person. Knowledge that's acquired from these slides is the application of that information. So like your take-home quiz, your discussions, your homeworks, things like that. And so by doing all those things, you acquire skill in the knowledge that's presented to you. And then ability is kind of how good you are at something. We aren't born with abilities per se. There are a lot of leadership theories that used to suggest that, but they've all been disproven because really ability comes from just a lot of knowledge and skill over time, right? You develop an ability at something, and granted, perhaps the suggestion of affinity for something, but at the end of the day, the element is just practicing stuff. Practice a lot of stuff and read. That's how I simplify things. So back to functions. And here's an explanation of each function for you. I've got a couple of different images for this, so because I like to give you guys a lot of different kind of perspectives on stuff. But basically, the formal functions of a manager are to decide what to do, right? Planning, organizing it. So designing how you're going to, whatever you planned, who will do it, right? Is that staffing. So your skills and your skills and your skills. Directing is how you'll manage to put those players in play. And then controlling is kind of making sure that everything that you said is going to happen is happening, right? And decision making cuts across all of them. So I like this one for that to define, but I like this one because it shows you that it's everything in between and within and among. Because decision-making truly is the most critical portion of what you're going to be doing as a manager. And so the next few are really more about the different hats you wear as a manager. I'm trying to decide if I really want to. Oh, okay. So remember I talked about how we're going to discuss management as functions, and then the skills that you need to have and the roles that you have to play, which require certain competencies. So to be able to actually carry out all of these functions, the idea is that you need to have certain skills, right? So the skills that you should have are technical in nature, human, like interpersonal skills, and conceptual skills, okay? And the reason that you need these skills, so I'm walking you guys through this slide, is because you're gonna end up playing these roles as a manager, believe it or not, okay? So let's start with the skills that I'm talking about. Technical skills are what you acquire when you're engaged in knowledge acquisition, right? And so things like being able to use certain software, being able to follow the strategic plan of the organization to carry out the alignment rules that are desired by the organization. Those are the technical skills that you need, right? Interpersonal skills are being able to communicate with others to be able to carry out those technical elements that you need to do. And conceptual skills are kind of being able to see the bigger picture. So that's why we care so much about critical thinking, decision-making, the abstract elements that I talk about, and the uncertainty I give you. So for example, even something as small as not letting you see somebody else's discussion helps you with conceptual skills because you fill in the gaps. So if there's a gap somewhere, like even with the org chart activity, if you perceive a gap, that's step one, that you're already developing a conceptual skill because you're perceiving a gap. Filling in the gap with some kind of tool that you've acquired is your second bridge of building that conceptual skill. Does that make sense? So with that critical thinking, you're able to fill in those gaps, recognize the boundaries of your span of control. And instead of saying, oh, we don't do that, thinking, oh, I need to partner with somebody because we don't do that. So it's things like those are the conceptual skills that make a good manager. And it takes time, mind you. So management skills are not something that you can acquire, let's say, in a 2-year master's program. You become familiar with knowing that you need these skills, but you acquire them over time with practice, right? Does that make sense? And so having these skills help you with all those, what I said, were called their hats that you have to wear. So Mintzberg he's the father of, not management, I think management behavior. I don't remember now. I'm blanking, but I'll get back to that. But he basically said that managers or leaders or coordinators, whatever you want to call, I say managers just because that's what we're familiar with. But he said basically that you are going to play multiple roles in your life as a manager, as a person that is convincing people to do things. And even within those roles, there's sub roles. And that doesn't mean that you have to play a certain role at one point or that you're born to play a certain role in another, but that you should consider the right role for the right time for the right place, okay? And so the key is the general aspect of his roles were interpersonal, informational, and decisional. And again, remember decisional, but basically interpersonal was just, in general, just interacting with people, just being the person that is the bridge between leadership and operations, for even if it's just the next level up of leadership, right? Because usually if you're a manager, then people report to you and you report to somebody else, right? So that's that vertical integration. So you're that person and you want to keep that gateway open. Informationally, you also have to think of yourself as the person that is also providing information. So that's where communication skills are really important, but also very good listening skills. So when you're giving information, you're also intaking information. So that's another hat that's really important to wear. And lastly, and not lastly, but most importantly, is decisional, because you have to handle ideas, but you also have to handle bad ideas. You have to handle conflict. You have to negotiate. You have to consider resources. You have to support. You have to make decisions based on whatever information that you have at the time, and also be responsible and accountable for the outcomes of those decisions, whatever they may be, good or bad. And so those were the three key hats that, and I'll show you sub hats in just a second, that Mintzberg said that you'll wear throughout your career. And I have a little sub form that I can put up for you guys. But I thought this was really cool because I think we think about management as a very siloed occupation, but it's such a complex work that I think it really needs a lot more. I think managers do a lot more than people give them credit for, because you have to be like, you're a counselor, you're a cheerleader, you're a decision maker. You're you provide resources, you take away resources, you make people really upset, you make them really happy. It's a lot of different roles. And it's very challenging because you have to do this all at the same time, as well as manage your own internal, do internal management, which we're not talking about yet. But so, and you also have to think about the organization and their needs, right? So it is a very challenging role. And so I want you to consider that when you're thinking about how to make decisions and how challenging it is. But it's really, I mean, it's a really challenging role because it's not just provision, it's not just processing, it's not just gaining, it's a lot of different hats. And those of you that have already been in any kind of supervisory role may have already experienced this. I don't know, have any of you had any supervisory experience to date? Just speak up because I can't see your hands. I've got too many windows open.
This is Ilana. I have, and I've recently been put in a position kind of bridging supervisor and manager. And so what we're talking about right now is just resonating a lot with me since I'm needing to grow and fill in these gaps in my own knowledge and competencies that I'm kind of recognizing now.
Wow, that's wonderful. I mean, it's congratulations. And yet it's very hard. And the beauty of it is recognizing that these are all things that can be learned. But you also, it helps to have a mentor too. You know, it's not easy. So definitely give yourself that grace to and space to learn, and also ask for resources, because the beauty of it is a lot of these organizations, particularly larger ones, not necessarily smaller ones, provide training. And we'll talk a little bit about that in HR, but there is training for this. There's support because organizations want you to grow. They want people to be able to do these things because this is not easy. You can't just do this. I can't just tell you this and then expect you to be able to do it. It's very hard. You can't even with a module on conflict and negotiation, you know, we can practice it and we practice decision making with our cases and whatnot, but it's not easy. But we do, it's like I said, having the knowledge and practicing, but it is definitely hard. And then competency. So we talked about functions, skills, and knowledge, right? And so this is actually from the National Center for Healthcare Leadership. And the reason I really like this is because this is a nationwide survey that actually looks at specific competencies, which is what you actually see in job description. Hint, hint. And it really talks about the skills and knowledge that they think managers need to do great work. And so I've posted these for you guys because I want you guys to look at what are some of the key terms that are beneficial to healthcare organizations, so that you all can align your statements, your interviews, your thoughts with these. And these are tiny, so I recognize that. So you can see some of these are written out more. So I wrote them out for you guys to hear a little bit more, okay? But essentially, this is what it is being sought after. Okay. And basically what you'll do as a manager is you'll take everything in, you'll transform it, and you're going to carry out the missions of the organization. Okay. So you are the catalyst. That's what I was trying to say earlier, and I couldn't find the word. You're the catalyst. It's like, what's that word? I should probably put this sooner so I don't keep forgetting the word. I think my own cognitive dissonance is not functioning. But you are a key catalyst. And I think that the decision-making role obviously is critical, but you cannot discount your role and catalyst is such a great word, because not only are you the spokesperson or the face of the mission, vision, values of the organization, but you're also you carry that information out, but you're also watching out for your frontline employees. You're also caring for what's happening in the front lines. And so it is such an important task in my perspective. And so these are some models that I really like, because remember we talked about the anatomy of the organization, right? So think about your anatomy of the organization. And so you see, I really like this managers managing. I don't know why they put that. I just think it's hilarious. But essentially, this is you. This is managers managing. That's you guys. But basically, you are operating within the formal organization, right? So you're operating within the anatomy of the organization, and you are so critical. But you're not only making decisions within the managers managing realm, right? So inputs from whatever your employees are saying, whatever the health services organization is saying, but also whatever you're feeling, right? So the self, the system, and the context, your employees, and you have to make decisions based on all of those things. But then you have the pressure from the system and the external environment. So these are all the things that are influencing you. And if you want to make it more complicated, I always put this one because this is an even more complex decision-making. If you really want to get specific, the only reason I put this for you guys is so that you can think about, if you are hurting for topics for you guys to think about for interests that you have, these are all the different topics that you can think about. And so the other thing I really like here is if you think about the different inputs: human resources, supplies, technology, information, capital, patients, customers, other. So the inputs are substantial. And you have the organization, right? Strategy, whatnot. And then this is what you are going to focus on. So you have to convert all of this into actual action. So things to do, doing things, structure, process, outcome, right? I just forgot the question I was going to ask you. Does anybody want to venture a guess on what this looks like? What theoretical lens this may look like? Or which theoretical lens this may help you with this type of decision making?
The one you were talking about earlier. But
Theory. It's been a while, so I don't expect you guys to.
Is this like a systems theory?
It is the precursor to systems theory, which I did mention, but it's not one of the ones that we, it's one of the ones we talked about at the beginning of the semester.
Is it the contingency
Yes,
theory?
yes,
Okay.
because you have to fit the conversion, the transformation occurs is a question of fit, right? A manager has to find the right fit for whatever inputs they have to respond to. So whatever I don't want to say problem because that's not, it may not be a problem. Whatever task that has to be addressed, right? Whatever goal, they have to find the right resources, technology, staff, whatever, to fit to that problem, be it more complex or less complex. Maybe it's just a standardization issue or whatever. But yes, it's a question of fit. And yes, contingency theory is like the closed element of what we know to be systems theory now, or systems thinking. And the open is complex adaptive systems. The open side of that. So overall, key role for managers. If you guys read the article about Do Managers Matter? That's not the title of it. I know, I can't remember the exact title. I forgot what the title was. Let me look at it. What was that? I can't remember exactly, but the role of managers in the healthcare organization is critical. So especially if you're looking at things like the COVID rollout right now, the vaccine, it is a management issue. And can anybody guess if it's a structure or process? Does anybody want to guess what that is?
So what was the question exactly? The structure, or like, is it the structure phase or a process phase, or is that what you're asking, Dr. S?
Uh-huh. Yes, Talat, exactly. I'm telling you, it is a management issue. I hate saying problem. I don't know why I keep saying it's a management problem. Okay, let's say it's a problem. It's a management problem. So what would you say it is? Is it a structure problem? Is it a process problem, or is it an outcome problem? I'll give you a hint. It is not an outcome problem because the vaccine works, right? So we know that the outcome is not the problem.
So it should be processed then.
Why? Coming.
Sorry. I knew it was not the outcome, but because there is a transformation, this is what as I'm reading, like from input to output, processes are involved. Like from my understanding, structure is more so how the management is structured. And
not just management though.
Sorry, come again.
Not just management, but your thinking is excellent. But just to give you an idea with structures, it can be physical capital, physical buildings, physical and geographic spaces.
Spaces, yeah.
I would say it's both.
Okay, why?
Well, because you do need to have the input of capital resources, information, technology, equipment, and then you need to then you need to do it. You need to have a process to use those tools and have a process.
Okay.
To have an output.
I'm going to ask you for more specifics. Can anybody help Monica with providing more specifics? She has a great start with the both idea, but I need more specifics. For example.
Well, for example, in the inputs at my hospital, we built a huge tent. So that would be the structural. The process part is everything that's going on inside of that tent, and also some equipment as well, of course. But you have to have a process in order for that tent to work, for everything that happens in that tent to work. So when the customer comes in, the patient comes in, not feeling well, he comes out feeling at least better.
Excellent. But now let's go out. That's assuming you have the vaccine supply you need, yes?
Well, for that particular setting, just the fact, it's not the ultimate output, but the output is, from our standpoint, patient left and his needs were met at our facility. So that would be the output for that particular scenario.
Maybe one process issue could be like how they're managing the different tiers of the rollout. So there could be maybe a more effective way of doing it. There's discussion about whether it was going to be organized by age or by occupation, or recently saw one saying if you live in these zip codes, then you can come here to get your vaccine during these times. So I think that might be a process issue in terms of determining who is getting and how many you can deliver at a time.
Very good. Yes. I actually think to respond to Monica's point, I think the actual provision of the vaccine when it arrives is actually pretty good, but I could be wrong because I'm not on the ground. But I am more referring to the delivery of the supply itself. And that's exactly, was that you, Ilana? I missed the little light up.
Yeah, this was Ilana, sorry.
But that's one provisioning of the supply. And yeah, the tier, even just the communication of the tiers has been challenging. The communication of the differences in the tiers. Anybody else have any ideas and thoughts?
Well, I'm not too completely sure, but I felt like it was structured because as we continue to expand and there's more sites offering vaccination, it seems that although some sites are giving the first dose, there's others waiting for their second dose at different sites. So there's no order to it.
Okay, and you think that is structure or process?
I think structure.
I feel like that might be process because that's more about organizing organizing the service that's already there. But I think because of the differences in sites, I can see why you are also suggesting structure. So I'm almost thinking both.
Okay.
Because that is challenging. Because so what she's referring to is the throughput with respect to having the initial vaccine at one site and then being allowed to take the second vaccine at a different site. So it makes it very challenging to estimate or predict or forecast your supply, right? Your expected demand, which makes it very difficult for planners, AKA managers, to determine how much vaccine that they will need, especially if they are facing shortages. This is a very complex question, by the way. Otherwise, there wouldn't be any issues with the rollout. So don't think that you have to solve it, and don't think that there is one right answer. There are many. And this is the beauty of this type of back and forth, because I can assure you that planners are also doing this because they've never done this. Imagine planning for something you've never done before. So that's something that's very unique to this particular situation.
No, but at the same time, Dr. S, I think it's a very real world problem, and it was good that you brought this, so we are able to think about it and question like whether it's going to be a process or structure or both. It's really good. Thank you.
Oh, no problem. But it's something you want to think about. Also, you want to think about it because you want to think about these decisions based on not just because this is a harder challenge too, because remember, the focus is what is the focus of that particular activity in terms of the vaccine rollout. So think of it as a big organization, right? Even though it's completely messed up because we have federal and local. So I know, but remember the goal. Remember, we're aligning. So what's the overall goal?
Well, the overall goal should be having as many people vaccinated and having positive outcomes.
So, and we'll having people vaccinated, right?
Yeah.
So when we think about that as a manager, and we know that there's certain OFEs or opportunities for improvement, one of which is the sites not communicating, what can you as a manager think about in terms of improving that? So that's also how you can also kind of control or get a handle on the situation, right? Is working even, always remember the goal, plan with the goal in mind. So when you think about these things, so we're speculating and we're talking about issues with the vaccine rollout and identifying problems. When you start talking about solutions and making decisions, because we can identify problems all day, you know, the federal government sucks because it doesn't talk to the states, or the states are doing their own thing and each state is disorganized. I mean, I have a whole list, okay, because I just, all day we think about this. But at some point, right, our decision makers have to make decisions. So how would you help them plan? So the first step would be begin with the goal in mind. How do we get shots in arms? And you can see that that's what the federal government did when they started to really roll out vaccines. They increased supply and increased rollout to all of the other, to everybody that they could possibly get it. And in California, you can see that because they changed the tiers again. So this isn't perfect, but you can see that they're trying to be responsive to that overall goal. It's a mess. It is a mess. So how else could you manage it? How else would you try to manage this disorganized process?
Could a structural issue be maybe like the website that people are going to schedule their vaccines? So maybe making the website more accessible or easier to use. And then maybe like staffing, like I think the county employees are just kind of volunteering to staff certain sites, and they've been looking for people to help staff the site. So would those be examples of structural? Structure
and process, but actually, yeah, the website is definitely structural because yes, one of the big issues has been in scheduling. And so you've seen them have to shut down the websites, or the websites have been overloaded. And again, with supplies, a lack of knowledge of supply. So really poor logistics has been a major issue. And that, you know, my own opinion, just from what I've observed, because obviously I have very little information, but as a manager, you'll make a lot of decisions with very little information, is that there's a lack of transparency. And I'm not sure why that is, but I think that's also a big issue in terms of being able to see where the vaccines are going and how they're being distributed. And I don't think it's necessarily like on purpose, like they're trying to hide anything. I think there's just, it's so overwhelming that they're having trouble keeping track. And I think that that is actually a much bigger issue with respect to our infrastructure in general of IT. So you can see that, you know, with public health and with our infrastructure in public health in general, that our infrastructure wasn't right. And that is a huge structural issue that is not going to be fixed with one pandemic. But that's definitely something to take into account, is that the current public health infrastructure was not ready for this. That's not going to fix it, but that's also why you've noticed a lot of hospitals step in, a huge amount of hospitals. Sharp is managing a humongous amount of the vaccination here and UCSD. So those two have really stepped in because they're two of the biggest systems. But that's one way to think about when you're problem solving, is always think of potential partners or substitutes, because those are healthcare, right? They're not public health. They're not preventive. Vaccines typically live in the public health space. So that's kind of a neat thing to look at, is to see how they've stepped in. But anyway, all right, enough of the vaccine. Let me escape out of here. Where's my little stop share? Sorry guys, I lost my controls. Oh my gosh, I lost all my controls. Hang on. Oh, here they are. Okay. All right, so to close out today, the last thing I wanted to share with you guys, because we'll do our full decision making next week with our EI, I did want to address at least a little bit about our discussion today. So the last little bit that I want to cover is what we'll be kind of prefacing for next week. Sorry. Okay. So if you can see my screen. So like I said, I was going to contradict everything. So one of the coolest pieces of research that I found, can you see it? Versus healthcare management research. Am I sharing the right screen?
We can see it.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Is that in fact, and it's not that the formal functions of management don't matter, but the reason that I emphasized emotional intelligence and thinking about emotional intelligence, which we'll do a lot more next week, is that it's not just about these formal functions. The reason that emotional intelligence is important is because they help you carry out those formal functions. And so emotional intelligence and self-awareness and those things that we're going to talk about contribute to these informal functions of management, which is, and I liked how they worded them. And it's the management of attention, management of meaning, management of trust, and management of self. And I kind of defined it for you in terms of buy-in. So management of attention is getting people to follow you, to believe in what you're selling, if you will. That's really important, more so than what you think. Because again, being a manager is an appointed, anointed role. It's not real. So by being a good listener, by being a good communicator, and that doesn't mean that you have to be entertaining, or it means just being sincere, that will help you be a good manager, because people will believe what you say. And that's also where management of meaning comes in, because the understanding the vision and mission of your organization, yes, the VMOSA, and believing the vision and mission of your organization will help you convey the vision and mission of your organization, which will in turn help you obtain those measurements that matter so much. Because the measurements aren't going to matter so much if you're struggling to get people to do them, right? So you want, and that's where the buy-in, these are all intertwined. And again, trust as well, because when you have trust, productivity, everything is easier, everything. And management of self, again, that's the kind of core of emotional intelligence, which is self-awareness. That's the hardest, I think, because especially when you're having a bad day, and so when you look through some of your decisions, or when you're confronted with something suddenly and you have very little time to make decisions, that's the hardest time to make a decision. So, but we've all done that. So remember that, and then also remember others will be in the same boat. Will also help us increase our emotional intelligence. So I just wanted to pop that up there. You'll review this for next week too, and then we'll continue. So think of this as 9-10. So the slides are up for next week. But that's all I have for today. So let's hang out. If you want to talk to me for office hours, I will stop recording.